Alrighty, so I finally got around to reading another chapter in the Quinta Silmarillion, chapter 22, of the Ruin of Doriath. And so, where we picked up last time was, Turin had killed himself after finding out that his sister had committed suicide. And the elves buried him and wrote on a stone, on like a gravestone, Turin Turambar Dagner Glarunga, and at the bottom, beneath that, Nienor Niniel. Of course, she's not there, obviously, because she threw herself into the river, off a cliff into the river, and died. And her body was swept off to the sea. Hurin is finally let out of Angband, and he's basically a bent, broken man at this point. And of course, Morgoth pretends like he's feeling pity for Hurin, but obviously no, he's being deceitful. I mean, this is the devil we're talking about. Very a deceiver, a liar, a thief, murderer. He's all those things, right? And so Hurin wants to go back to Gondolin, and of course the Eagles are more watchful now. The spies of Morgoth are now kind of sniffing around, and Hurin is basically denied entry into Gondolin, and he shouts, basically revealing the secret of where Gondolin, kind of where it's at. Morgoth now knows that it's in this area somewhere. Thank you, Hurin. And then he tries to go to Doriath. No, before he goes there, he goes to the ruins of Nargothrond, and there he slays Mime the Petty Dwarf, as you remember, betrayed his son Turin, and he was captured by the orcs and almost taken to Angband, but of course Beleg rescued him, and Turin accidentally kills Beleg. All that. Mime, as he's dying, he curses the treasure. Now, there are similarities here between Norse mythology and Germanic mythology and what Tolkien's writing here, since he studied that stuff and knew a lot about it. The Volsunga Saga and the Nibelungenlied, there's a scene there where Fafnir, who was a dwarf, is turned into a dragon. He has his treasure. Sigurd goes in and kills him, takes it. The treasure is cursed by the dragon as he's dying. Man, I can't even think about it. Lost my train of thought there. And then, but anyway, Hurin then goes to Doriath he kills Mime, he takes some of the treasure, one piece specifically, and it's the necklace of the dwarves, the Nauglyph ring, and he takes it to King Thingol and Doriath and gives it to him, and he departs. He's a little upset because of what happened with his children, blames Thingol, but Thingol wasn't his fault. He tried to do a good thing, and he took care of Turin. He basically was like a father to him. Turin was more of he was kind of hot-headed, let's just say. But anyway, he goes, and Hurin goes to the gravesite of his children, and there he meets his wife once again, and they sit there, and he holds her hand until she dies, and he buries her there, and inscribes her name on the stone. And then he goes and casts himself into the sea, and he is now dead. And so basically ends... And the Children of Húrin ends with Turin's death, but this is the end of that whole story. It's now over. And so the curse is now going to have its way here. You see that a lot in fantasy and even in Tolkien's works, where you see enchanted objects that are cursed, and the stuff's kind of fun to play around with in Dungeons and Dragons too. Yeah. But of course, there is no such thing as a curse. I don't really believe that, really. Especially if you're, someone's a Christian, it's kind of hard to curse them because they can't be cursed because they're blessed by God. And we even see that in the Bible, people being cursed. But I don't think necessarily objects. But it is a big part of fairy tales. Enchanted and cursed objects, like I said. So, Thingol has the dwarves remake the necklace and put the Silmaril on it. And they kind of decide that they want it. And he's like, no, this is mine. And they kill him. And and they take it. Then the dwarves, taking the Nauglamir, passed out of Menegroth and fled eastwards through Rhegion. But tidings went swiftly through the forest, and few of that company came over Aros, for they were pursued to the death as they sought the eastward road. And the Nauglamir was retaken, and brought back in bitter grief to Melian, the queen. Yet two there were of the slayers of Thingol, who escaped from the pursuit on the eastern marches, and returned at last to their city far off in the Blue Mountains. And there in Noldgrad they told somewhat of all that had befallen, saying that the dwarves were slain in Doriath by command of the king, who thus would cheat them of their reward. Total lie. That is not what happened. And so you begin to see this grudge between elves and dwarves that carries over later on when we get to The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. And the dwarves, then great was the wrath and lamentation of the dwarves of Noldgrad for the death of their kin and their great craftsmen, and they tore their beards and wailed, and long they sat taking thought for vengeance. Now, for a dwarf to tear out their beard, see, dwarves have to have beards, because if they don't have them, it is shameful to shave their beard, or to rip it out, to not have it. And so you see how angry the dwarves are at this lie that they were all slain because, the king was being a jerk, basically. And so they decide they're going to go to war against the king. Well, against Doriath. The king is dead. And they do. And they take... Oh, I'm kind of actually wrong, I think. No, I got that right. I was thinking about Thingol. Yeah, so he dies in this battle. When they... Yeah, I was right. Never mind, I don't know what I'm thinking. But, there's battle in Doriath. Melian flees, Mablung is killed. And the dwarves take everything. And so Baron, here, as they're marching home, those that are left, goes to war against them. Some escape, and then the Ents come down out of the mountains and kill what's remaining of the dwarves. And so the Silmaril comes to Baron and Luthien. Luthien wears the necklace of the dwarves. their son Dior goes to Doriath to rule what's left of the people there, and one day the Silmaril comes to him, and he realizes that indeed his parents, Beren and Luthien, have finally died and have gone to heaven, basically. They can't go to Valinor, as you know from Beren and Luthien. They have a choice what kindred they want to belong to. I mean, they have a choice. Luthien has a choice to either stay with Beren as a mortal woman or go to Valinor and live in peace. She doesn't want that. She wants to stay with Beren, so they both become mortal. And so we see here in this tale, they finally kick the bucket. And now Dior has it. And the sons of Feanor, obviously that curse is still at work, and they want the Silmaril, all the Silmarils back, so they demand it back, and Dior's like, no, you can't have it. And so they kill him and what's all left of the people there, or majority of the people. Some do escape. There fell Celegorm by Dior's hand, and there fell Curufin and dark Caranthir. But Dior was slain also, and Nimloth his wife, and the cruel servants of Celegorm seized his young sons and left them to starve in the forest. Now that's very nice of them, isn't it? Just let them starve right there in the forest. Maedhros, of course, repents and feels bad for what happened and tries to search for them, but in vain. So what happens to the two sons of Dior, we don't know. I assume that, yeah, they starve and die. Or maybe they make their way, they find food and make their way to Assyrian and live with the Green Elves and are there up until the time of Lord of the Rings. I mean, who knows? But since we don't hear about them later, I do think they do die. So that's, yeah, pretty nice. Just let them starve. Thus Doriath was destroyed and never rose again, but the sons of Feanor gained not what they sought, for a remnant of the people fled before them, and with them was Elwing, Dior's daughter, and they escaped, and bearing with them the Silmaril, they came in time to the mouths of the river Sirion by the sea. And they will soon be joined by others. Now, I did gloss over something in here. Some of the treasure that the dwarves stole, I think all of the treasure, anyway, that they stole from Thingol. Beren, yeah, he does. He casts them into a river. And this is reminiscent of a scene in the Volsunga Saga and the Nibelungenlied. That happens there. So you definitely see Tolkien's influence here from how he was influenced by that stuff in here and throughout this book. I mean, look at the Valar, especially in the Book of Lost Tales, very similar to the Norse gods, and in some cases to the Greek gods. Now, this, the Rune of Doriath was originally one of the Lost Tales. There it was called the Nauglyph Ring, or Necklace of the Dwarves. And there's a lot more that happens in that tale. And you can find that in the Book of Lost Tales, Part 2 of the History of Book 2 of the History of Middle-earth, which I hope to read those again someday. And I've read those several times, and I love reading them. It's not something that especially when it comes to Tolkien, I'm not just going to read something of his once. I'm going to go and do multiple readings. And I'm sure next time I read the Silmarillion, I'll probably get even more out of it than I did today. And I know in these videos, too, it's not quite exactly how I envision them. Because I'm basically, what am I doing is retelling, just reiterating, or basically giving a summary of the tales. Not much analysis as I wanted to, but there's a lot of studying to do, and I just don't have the time right now. But I'm hoping eventually to redo these videos and maybe even do live streams, because I would kind of like to do that, because I can talk way more about this stuff, because this stuff that I love talking about. And if I get something wrong and misspeak, that's gonna happen. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I am a fan, and if you can't tell, and if someone thinks that I'm not, then whatever. But anywho, this video's gone long enough. I think it's probably gonna be like the longest video, and it'll take me forever to load it, but hey, it is what it is. Anyway, I will sign off here and be back tomorrow with another video or two, because I'm going to try to get some more reading done. Later.